Hi, hello, how's it going? Welcome back to Nerd for No Reason. I'm Raven, and
And I'm Mark.
yeah, that guy.
Sorry, I stepped over your intro.
You're all good. I was like, I don't know if he's gonna say something or not, but we're gonna go for it. We're back to bring you another fun little episode of, that nerdy stuff that you like, talking about random things that we find in the world that we want to bring and share with you. So, uh,
I'm excited. Are you excited?
I am
Is this your
excited.
favorite part of the week like it is mine?
Yeah, the chittery chattery and find out what's new in the world. What about you? You excited?
Just, I'm always excited. This has been so much fun. A little peek behind the curtain for everyone listening. Me and Raven have already been talking for like 15 minutes off, like before we officially started recording, and I don't really get to talk much nerd stuff throughout the week, so this is a good kind of just bleh. Oh my God, did you hear this? Oh my God. But also, there's been a lot of stuff developed like within the last 48 hours that we're going to cover. Most of our news this week is from the last probably 48 to
Yeah.
72 hours. So, yeah, even my D&D group didn't get the outpouring of stuff that we're going to talk about this week.
Oh
So,
man, we got some bangers going on today.
yeah.
But I guess to start out with some of the most tragic of news that we have is Kevin Conroy, the death of him, our beloved Batman, and the voice of
Yeah.
Batman for so many animated series.
So many. Um I know that you don't remember. You may have watched it in reruns or whatever, but the Batman animated series where he, kind of rose to prominence, I guess, where he
Hmm.
kind of became a household name.
Yeah.
He was so good as Batman in a show that was so vastly unique and at the time, and I say this as there was nothing like this show before it,
Hmm.
but it set the stage and influenced everything after it. If you look at all the DC animated stuff, 99% of it was influenced by the Batman the animated series, that art style. They all have like the super square jaws
Yeah.
and just that was from the Batman animated series.
I
And
definitely did watch that because my grandfather loves Batman, and so he has like thousands upon thousands of DVDs within that household, and like, so I have watched like some of the show, and so I totally get what you mean. I do like that style of animation where it's not like super bubbly and stuff like that, what you see like in a lot of today's cartoons, but I get what you're saying when you mean it's basically like the foundation for MCU type animations and such.
yeah, and it was also it was so unique that in a world at the time of Animaniacs and Tiny Toons and all these kind of other kind of goofy, very popular hit shows, that the Batman animated series was kind of really this really dark show.
Hmm.
I mean, it was and there were certain episodes where it got dark, like not just artistically, but also like as you're watching, you're like, oh man, as an adult, you're watching it going, this is kind of a lot for what is, something they show, during kids programming. I mean, leading into this show was like Animaniacs.
Hmm.
So, and this also was the show that gave us Mark Hamill in probably his second most popular role behind Luke Skywalker. And all grounded by Kevin Conroy.
Hmm.
It was, oh God. I was reading an article. They were talking about, the obituary, for lack of a better words, of Kevin Conroy, talking about his career and stuff, and it's sad.
Hmm.
Like a little tear got in my eye as I'm reading the actors Mark Hamill and Tara Strong and all these people saying nice things about him because he genuinely seemed like just a good dude. You know, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. I saw that he died at like 66. That's
Yeah. Yeah, and nowadays that's I don't know. I remember as a kid thinking 66 was so old,
right.
and now as I'm like slowly approaching 43, I'm like, man, 66 is like right around the corner. But that's super young
Yeah.
for someone to pass away.
Cancer.
It's wild. Yeah.
Cancer
I,
sucks.
I didn't see what kind of cancer. Did you see what kind of cancer it was?
I don't think I saw. Um, yeah. I don't think they've announced necessarily like what kind of cancer it was.
Okay.
I don't know if they, eventually will or if they'll just be like respectful and, all that
Yeah.
all that sadness that goes with that.
It was some form of intestinal cancer. Yeah. So, yeah, it was. Oh man, just R.I.P. Kevin Conroy, man. That's all I can say. I don't really want to just bring it down too much. I know I say that as we lead off the show with this
Right.
kind of bummer news, but
But
you know,
it's an important thing definitely to discuss as someone that is
yeah,
so popular within the realm of, you know,
yeah,
comics and superheroes and all that jazz that comes with it.
yeah. There's one thing, one scene out of all of his Batman acting he did. There's one scene that I would like to just spend just a second talking about, just to show kind of his range. I'm a huge fan of voice acting, and I always find it particularly interesting when someone can really hammer home a performance through their voice. And there was one scene where Batman is in the Batcave doing at his Bat computer doing some type of Bat detective work, and he gets a Alfred comes down the stairs and he says, "Hey, there's a call. I think it was maybe from Commissioner Gordon or somebody looking for Bruce Wayne." So he answers the phone as Bruce Wayne, and it was right after he was just talking in his quote unquote Batman voice. But he switches, he hits the switch, and he's just like, "Hey, Doc," or yeah, this a doctor, maybe commissioner, I can't remember, but he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And then as soon as it's over with, boom, he's right back into the Batman voice, and that was just one of those things that was solely a vocal performance because the animation it's the same guy, because he's sitting there with his cowl off as he is doing his work at the computer.
Yeah.
So the animators didn't animate him like I think they modified the eyebrows a little bit, animated them a little differently, but for the most part, visually it was the same thing, and it was just such a great acting moment vocally from Kevin Conroy that always stuck with me. So good. So good. So good. Okay. I'm done.
I mean, it's fair.
So,
You gotta,
yeah.
you gotta give props. Like, voice acting really is like such an interesting thing. Like, when you look at like big voice actors that you're like, oh, these people were voice acting basically every character of cartoons that I ever watched growing up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're just like, whoa, I didn't realize you voiced 50 characters that I was watching since my childhood. Stuff like that. Insane. Ugh.
And in a lot of the voice actors that I met at conventions and stuff, they have all been super nice too. Like I've been to plenty of conventions and I've met plenty of quote unquote stars. But the live action ones seem to kind of have a little bit more of an ego than the voice actor ones. I guess it's because their face isn't on screen. You know, they can walk around with a little bit of anonymity and no one knows who they are.
Hmm.
But like you were saying, the person who voices like 50 characters, we met Rob Paulson. I don't know if you know who that is, but he is one of the Animaniacs. He was the original Raphael in Ninja Turtles. He
Mm.
played Donatello in one of the more recent versions. Did I say he was one of the Animaniacs?
Yes.
Yeah. So me and my oldest daughter, we went to a comic convention pre-COVID, and he was going to be there, and we we went to a panel that he was at, and as we were walking back past his booth afterwards, there was no line. And I was like, "Holy crap, kid! Let's wait for him to come back because he should be coming back any second." So we waited in line, and his handler came out, and he's like most of the celebrities. He was, wanting to charge for selfies and all this other stuff, and I understand that. That's fine. That's part of the game.
Mm.
Um, but we were like, we don't want any of that. We just want to say, hey. We don't want to autograph. We just want to say hey to him. More so for my daughter, who was 10 at the time, maybe 9, and he came out and was just the nicest dude.
Oh.
He came out. He started. Alice started asking him voice acting questions and stuff like that, and he did a couple voices, and that was super cool. And
Oh, that's so cool.
and he was like, Alice asked her, he's like, "Oh, do you know Tara Strong?" She's like, "Oh, I love Tara," and talked to us a little bit about her. And then I asked him the question that had been on my mind for years. I said, "Rob, you're familiar with the movie Fight Club, right?" And he goes, I get asked this question a lot. I said, "Good, because please tell me that you were the inspiration for the part in Fight Club where everyone chants, 'His name was Rob Paulson.'" And he's like, "No, that wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it because I didn't know about it until the movie came out. And I've only met David Fincher once, and that was well after Fight Club. But a buddy of mine called me up and was like, 'You're never going to believe what's happening in Fight Club right now.'"
Oh,
So, yeah,
nice.
it was Rob Paulson, A-plus dude, man. I love that dude. And like I said, I met other voice actors, and they are very, very friendly. So,
Nice.
yeah.
So, you know, another thing that'll be a little sad to talk about, but the new Black Panther did come out this past
Yes.
week. I'm back at Regal, so I've been working, dealing with the public that gets to go see it while I have to wait for the first 2 weeks, thanks to good old Disney waiting to make sure they make as much bank as they can within those first 2 weeks.
Okay, hold on a second. Before we talk Black Panther, I want to get some deep and dirty
Oh, yeah.
Regal behind the
Let's
scenes
go for it, man.
working at a movie theater secrets. So what's it like when you guys get a movie in? Because you guys do you guys get delivered movies, or do you just get them off of a server?
So there's different things that can happen with different types of movies. So I recently transferred over to a much bigger theater than the theater that I used to be a manager at, where we were an 8 screen. And so now I'm at a 16 screen. I have yet to be able to make my way up to the booth, which eventually I really want to, because this
Mm-hmm.
theater also has IMAX and has like a bunch of like special type projectors that we didn't have back at my old little baby theater. But nowadays most like movies aren't on tapes and reels like you used to see in production type things. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's mostly like you get sent like files online. They're basically like encrypted type things where eventually the day of the movie it's like, okay, this is about to release in the next, however many hours before the first movie actually plays. You have to make sure you test the content. So if anything goes wrong, we can fix it. It's like stuff like that where you literally
Hmm.
can't test. Like Black Panther would have been tested on the 10th, whereas the movie technically debuted the 11th. But thanks to pre-screenings of most big movies nowadays, like everything gets pre-screened on Thursdays, which is just kind of dumb to me to just be like, hey, why don't you just make the date that day? But whatever. I'm not a big movie executive that makes all those decisions. But what they'll do
So
is they'll
does
sit
every theater have to? Does every theater have to do the
like testing content and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I would say so, just because if you get something and somehow the file is messed up, you don't want to be the person that's like, oh, Black Panther stopped within the first 15 minutes and you just hear audio, but you see absolutely nothing, or vice versa, because that can
Yeah.
happen, unfortunately. Occasionally, you do get sent in like special tapes. Like whenever we would get older movies, or special event type things. Like right now, Regal's got the Studio Ghibli. Oop, why did I say it like that? Studio Ghibli movies that they've been doing since the beginning of the summer, where it's like
Hmm.
one movie each month that they'll play for a few times. They'll send like these big, they're almost like tapes where you have to ingest it into like a system, and then eventually you send those tapes back. Like they are only good for however set long that you have the movie playing. So some are different than others, but for the most part, you don't get the big reels, which I feel like
Yeah.
I would have loved to have done. But unless they have, old school theaters anywhere around here, I'm not going to get to mess with those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool.
But it is really
Yeah.
interesting to like go up into the booth and learn like stuff like that. Because
I'm sure I'm probably going to ask you a whole bunch more questions just to like movie theater type stuff because I would love to open up a small little like two screen movie theater and just not show new
and you
movies.
just play like whatever you're
Just
feeling, some like classics,
just have a
some weird
weekend where we
stuff.
play
Yeah.
Ghostbusters and Gremlins and just have a big time. You know, just a $5 theater and just nickel and dime everybody to death.
Right. Dude,
Yeah.
I would love a theater like that. I wish they had those back in Chattanooga, but basically my old Regal that I worked at was the cheap house where they got like, you know, it'd be like $1 movie Wednesday, and then like for the rest of the week it's like $5 a ticket. And they're the stickiest floors imaginable, and anytime you go in there, it just smells like children have been in there permeating and playing for hours. But it was great. Like you
Yeah,
love
but
that
y'all had like
feeling of
those.
it. But now it's completely different because when they redid the entire theater, so now it's like a luxury theater where there's reclining seats, there's a bar, there's food and yada yada yada, all that jazz. So like I can like go into that building and remember the day of when I used to go there when I was little. Like the fact that Avatar is coming out soon, and I'm like, oh my god. The first time that I saw the first Avatar was when it was the cheap theater, and the theater was just packed full of people because it's like been out for just long enough that it's cheaper now. And like you're sitting there in those little fold down seats, and you're just like, okay, we're all just watching it. It was a good time. I like the memory of old school theater, but I do love the luxury of brand new theaters.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. Give me the low down dirty shame on the Black Panther. No spoilers.
Black
No spoilers. Don't
Panther.
don't
I
contradict
know.
me too much from last
Look,
week.
I have yet to see the new Black Panther because I more than likely will not pay to go see it because I get so many free tickets a month just because of working at Regal. Also, I work basically two jobs. Like they're almost like two full-time jobs at this point. So I barely have enough time to go to the theater on my off days as it is. So we've got the fun little buckets of popcorn, the fun little cups where you get like little action figures on them. And I really just want to buy one of those. I'm not even going to lie. Just because I like the little cup with the action figure. They're so cool.
Yeah.
And people are like, have you guys seen it? And we're like, no. And nobody has come back to the stand because I'm only been working concession stand the entire time that I've started back at this theater. And nobody has come to say anything. And I'm like, is it good? Is it bad? Are you emotional? Is there anything that you want to like give to me? They don't say anything. And I'm just like, these people are keeping secrets that I need right now. I went in on the scoop of Black Panther. But
The reviews that I've seen so far, and at this point, it's been out 2 days now. It came out Thursday. We're recording on the
so
Saturday.
technically 3 days.
Okay, it is everything that I have seen on it is this is the Marvel movie that you guys have been waiting for. Like this is it. You
Ooh.
know, like if you like Black Panther, you're gonna love this Black Panther. Like this is it. So
Oh, that's
I
exciting.
yes, and that's all I know. I haven't heard anything about any of the new Black Panther, like you know, the character Black Panther, Ironheart, Namor, Angela Bassett. Ain't heard anything about that.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I'm going to tell you something. And it's not technically a spoiler because it's before the like Marvel, you know, the big MCU where they show like all the characters and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Chris told me today that he watched it. And it's basically a memorial to Chadwick. And oh
Oh.
my God, when he told me, I got emotional because it's like they're basically having a funeral for his character. And like he says there's like some big magic type stuff because, you know, in that world, anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when it's supposed to cut to where it'd be like blaring the MCU type Marvel music where it shows literally everyone, it's dead silent. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh, jeez.
Ah, I know I'm going to get the feels as soon as I see it because, like, even
Oh,
just hearing it, I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I
they're
going to
gonna have me
keep it together?
crying in the theater.
Exactly. So, when you go, just be prepared that you're going to probably feel a little emotional. But so far, that is all I know.
Well, I'm okay with that because, man, hold on a second.
It's going to be a ride.
What in the hell? I hear something. It sounds like. Sorry,
Are you good? Yeah.
it's not. It's not you. I thought my phone was ringing, and it's not.
Oh,
And that is that's a weird thing.
all right.
Okay, um, but the whole Chadwick Boseman passing was so wild to me when you found out that he was doing all of these Marvel movies with stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
You know, because it was he had it for so long that he was essentially hired in and knew that he had limited time. But at the same time, like
He put his all into it.
he did everything, and it was so good.
Hmm.
Was so good. Oh, so I am excited to see where they're going to go with this franchise because a lot of people leading up to this on Twitter and stuff were like, you should just recast T'Challa.
Hmm.
You should
No,
recast him.
absolutely not.
And I'm kind of torn on it I see where they're trying to go, but man, that's a high bar to fill. Like that's like when they recast the Joker every movie.
Right. Yeah.
You're everyone is just, oh, I can't believe, like, there's nothing you could do where people are going to be happy, especially comic book nerds. So we are going to be unhappy with whoever you get because no one's going to be Chadwick Boseman.
Exactly. 100%
And
agree with that. And so I am really excited to see how this movie turns out. And that's all I'm
me
going to say
too.
on that.
All right, let's talk about sports because this came across my timeline, and this is probably one of my favorite sports stories next to our NASCAR story we talked about last week. Pokemon trainer Ash Ketchum
Oh my god, I'm
is
so glad you said
finally. Fi-
I thought you were
Like, you
going to
thought I was
actually say some sport, and I was like, what? We're talking sports on here now?
Oh man, I love how.
Okay.
Oh,
You got
got
me.
him.
You straight got me. Okay.
Yes, Ash Ketchum is finally the world champion Pokemon trainer he set out to be
The very best.
27 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah, is that right?
No, wait.
20 oh,
No,
25 years.
because I saw like this whole like thread of like when the show first started. It was 1999 when Ash like the very first season is what
Okay.
I saw. So he'd be 23 because that's 2 years
Okay.
younger than me. Yeah.
So, yeah, finally did it this week in Japan on the latest episode of Pokemon Ultimate Journeys, the series.
Where he beat Leon. What's good? Have you watched that show?
No.
I have watched
Um,
the beginning of it, and I've just been too busy to finish whatever's on Netflix, but I love it. It's a really good one.
I guess this is just in Japan where this finally took place. It hasn't made its way to the English dub yet. But I watched the clip where Ash's Pikachu got the juice, got
Ooh,
his
yeah.
his inspiration from everybody. And dear listener, if you have not seen it, you got to see it because it's pretty spectacular. I'm self-admittedly not a huge Pokemon fan, know just enough to be dangerous. But this was one of those things like, boy, I wish I had bigger context into this because this looks pretty spectacular.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I'm excited for whenever that actually comes to the US because I really want to watch it. I want to watch all the glory that unfolds with Ash becoming the very best. Ugh,
what's going to be next for Ash now that he finally is the champion?
it's a good question. I'm
Is
hoping, like,
is he going to open his own gym finally?
ooh, ooh, that'll be cool. I wonder, like, how the video games, especially, are gonna, like, take a turn on stuff like that. Because I don't know if it was you and I that were talking, but, or if it was Chris and I. But we were talking about, Pokemon having, like, every Pokemon ever in one game. Like, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, at the very end, now you can defeat Ash. Do you know how cool that'd be? I'd love that.
That would be very cool.
Be a fun time.
That would be pretty awesome.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah. We might have to just do, I don't know, man. We might just have to do a whole episode on Pokemon.
Hey.
We might just have to bring in Chris and, I don't know, if we can rein Chris in long
Here's
enough
the
to get
thing.
him to focus on something.
We need to bring Kirby in.
Oh, yeah.
The boy who went to the champions for playing Pokemon cards when he was in
That's
like
right.
elementary, middle school. When I found that out about him, oh, I laughed
That's
so
right.
hard at him.
We
I
absolutely
love
got
that
to bring
guy.
Kirby in. Oh man.
Mm,
All right. I'm ready to talk about this week's movie. If you're ready to talk about this week's movie.
I think we should dive right into it.
Okay. This week's movie on the podcast is one of my favorite movies. We seem to be touching on a lot of movies I like since we started this show. But it's a 2011 independent British movie produced by Edgar Wright. His name was attached to it, and that's kind of what propelled it into the spotlight for me anyway. What put it on my radar. Written and directed by Joe Cornish, original writer of the Ant-Man movies, and he wrote this movie called Attack the Block, which was kind of the first major breakout role for
John
John
Boyega.
Boyega and the now Doctor Jodie Whittaker. So, Raven, let me ask you. I've already said I like it. What did you think of Attack the Block?
Man, that was a ride. It was an absolute ride from start to finish. Uh, Dude, I don't even know how to describe how I felt about this movie because I watched it with Chris. Uh, and we were laughing the entire time because it, like, how cheesy it is, but also just all the British aspects because, and I don't know how much you're on Twitter, but man, people love to be like, where you take like one way of like an American bulldog saying like boof, and then you take like a a British bulldog and it says boof in it, or like something like that, and it just went off. Like that entire movie was just basically if Twitter had wrote a movie
You know
that
what?
was
I can
based
get
in like
behind
that.
that.
Yes, right?
I can get behind that. And for those people that don't know, like Attack the Block is is an alien invasion movie set in a British ghetto for all intents and purposes, or British housing project.
Yeah.
And it follows the story of this young group of hoodlums who an alien crash lands essentially right next to them, and they it ends up just leading them into a night of just chaos as all these other aliens try to attack them and their project and all that. And you were about to tell me before we started recording what Chris said as you guys were watching this together. What was it that Chris said?
It's not necessarily what he said, but at some point in the middle of the movie, he goes, I'm just going to start typing down all the things that they repetitively say. And he made like a little list of random things that they kept saying that we kept cracking up about. So, of course,
Oh, yes,
yes.
I would love to hear this list more than anything because I spent 3 years living in England.
Hmm.
So when I saw this, I was like, yes, all this slang tracks. I've seen people use this. It didn't come off as quite such a foreign entity to me.
Hmm.
So I would like to hear kind of the true outsider's perspective on this slang, because to me, I love slang, period, but like British slang,
It's a good
the
time.
British, it is. And I love seeing American aspects filtered through a different lens. So when I was living in England, like there was the British hip hop scene was this weird kind of amalgamation of what British people interpreted hip hop as at the time. I was there in the early 2000s, 2003 to 2006, and they were kind of like New York hip hop. They weren't like West Coast. They weren't like Los Angeles hip hop. They
Oh,
were more like
God.
New York. And there was like, oh, we do this and that, and I'm like, but you don't, because that's not the environment that y'all grew up in. It's a completely different. It's like watching like Japanese hip hop, which is this weird kind of fusion of like late 90s early 2000s rap mixed with like that kind of over visualization neon Tokyo style rap. Just bright colors, but everyone being, like this kind of attitude of like late 90s early 2000s hip hop. It's fascinating to me. I wish there was. This is the documentary I want to see of how hip hop has influenced each culture throughout the world.
That'd be pretty cool.
Like
Yeah.
that's the mini series I want to see. So let me hear the slang, please, that you guys thought was so funny.
All right. So, obviously, a lot of repetitive of in it, bruv, and trust.
Yes.
Uh, so when you first meet uh what's his name? The guy that owns the just
Oh,
giant pot like
are you talking Nick Frost?
is that
The,
is
the
that
the
his guy?
white the white dude, the
No,
white dude or the black
the
dude?
black dude. The guy,
Hi hats.
yes, where you literally go up to his flat on the 19th floor and they're like it's basically the Fort Knox of weed.
Yeah.
Cracked us up. But the song that he has playing in the background where it's like it's constantly like brat, 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 and you just hear it like nonstop during the entire scene that he's in. And then at some other point, he literally like gets in a car and he's playing his own music, and it just constantly is doing that in the background. So Chris and I were cracking up about that. But there's also those two little kids in the movie that are like, "Oh yeah, we're big. We want to hang out with the teenagers." And at some point, they just go brat, brat, brat.
Oh yeah, no, the bruh 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 bruh. Yeah. No, that that's
Cracks
that's
up.
a that was a thing.
Oh, I
Um
can imagine.
so
There was also Tango neutralized.
Tango
They
neutralized,
kept
yeah.
saying that one quite a bit. Whenever they would try and take out, the lovely little aliens, and just the fact that they'd say like yeah question mark type things, like it would be like come rescue me, yeah, or like you on the way, yeah, like it. We just cracked up. Also, when they were trying to describe what the aliens were to
Oh, the
literally
big
anyone.
the big the big bear like wolf dog.
Big alien bear wolf motherfuckers is
Now
exactly
see,
what they kept saying over and over.
I didn't know if Chris was going to pick up on that or not,
Oh yeah,
because I refer to his dog as the big wolf dog,
that's fair.
and that's where I got that slang from. I'm like, oh man, you got this big fucking wolf dog. Like that's where I picked that up from.
I'm gonna have to let him know that you call Kabak that just because of this
And
movie.
there was, and I was really hoping, because this movie is right up my alley. Like if there was ever a movie that was made for me, this is probably the closest thing to it.
Hmm.
It is an alien invasion movie that takes place in the hood. Like this is just everything that I love about, just it is. Yeah, it checks all the boxes for me, and I was really hoping that Chris at some point would say, or you for that matter. I mean, it's not like I haven't hung out with you plenty of times for you to know my personality, but to be like, oh yeah, I completely understand why Mark likes this movie.
Right.
Like this is a science fiction hood movie
It's
that
so
that
good.
isn't that is serious. It's good, but at the same time, like you could tell, there's a little bit of cheek, there's a little bit of campiness behind it. They don't take themselves too seriously.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I kept cracking up. I was like, how many references to like movies are they gonna make? Because at one point, when they first see the very first little alien, Chris didn't hear it, but I did. I was like, did you not hear them just go, Is some Dobby the house elf motherfucker up in there? And they were like, oh yeah, we got to get the gremlins out of here. At one point, when the one kid gets his like leg bitten, and they're like, "Oh, this chick's a nurse," he was like, "Sweetie, you have a better chance of calling the Ghostbusters than going out there." Like just like good '80s like quote unquote horror movies that are just like you look at them now and you're just like, "That's hilarious." They were they were doing so many references that Chris and I were just like, oh my God, it just doesn't stop the entire movie. They are making reference after reference to these aliens, and it's so good.
But at the same time, you got to understand that these kids were, you know, portraying themselves as like between 15 and 18 years old,
Yeah.
you know, and you like that's something that teenagers of that age would 100% do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like, oh yeah, you know. Honestly, I'm more surprised that that there was multiple scenes where they started calling them golems.
Yes,
Like,
that too.
like, oh, we're gonna go kill these golems, and I'm like, like, I. That's more of a stretch to me than just about anything else in this movie. That teenagers would be like, oh, we're gonna go, and that may just be a British thing. Maybe that word is more popular
Well,
over
you
there.
know,
I'm not sure.
there's
But
Lord of the Rings, so maybe
yeah,
you
this
can
is very
like
much post Lord of the
you
Rings.
can pull some of that. Uh, Also, the fact that they kept saying "I'm gonna dead you" to like literally anyone, and also the aliens, cracked us up. We just like the
Oh,
like way that like I don't know. It's I like the slang in it. It's good. It's like
it
swear
is pretty
down,
good.
where they'd be like, "Be real, swear down."
The very first kind of scene with the boys where they rob Jodie Jodie Whittaker's character,
Hmm.
and she runs off after the spaceship hits the car and explodes everywhere. She runs off, and they're like, "Oh, Moses, she's running away." And this is like the big hero shot of John Boyega as he pulls down his, you know, his bandana from his face. He goes, "Allow it."
Yeah,
And I'm like, "Damn,
so
damn,
good,
that's that." As an American, that's a corny ass line, but man, you said that really, really cool, John Boyega.
right? Uh, or you know that one kid that kept hitting on the nurse.
Oh
That
yeah,
kid cracked us up because he kept just being like, I mean, I can take off my pants if you need me to. I got on some Calvin Klein's under here. And she's like, "Bro, you're like 15. Stop." And at some point he goes, "So you have a boyfriend or anything?" She's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "You fancy him or something?" And just like stuff like that. We were just like,
yeah.
where are you kids getting this stuff from? Like even like the kids that were supposed to be like 9 are just coming out with like the most insane stuff that you're just like that was out of pocket and I love it.
Right. I mean, listen, I've known kids like all these people. Probs and Mayhem, the two younger kid, I've known little badass kids like that who have little to no parental supervision and just want nothing more than to be associated with the big kids, you know, and they will 100% set a trailer on fire to be, you know, to prove themselves. Um, but Probs and Mayhem were just, God, they were such good characters.
Okay, the
Just,
fact that they knew to like put lighter fluid or gasoline and that little like the little pump water
yeah, Super Soaker.
yes, the super soakers. Because Chris was like, why are they just going to spray them with water? That's stupid. And I was like, no, bud. They're being smart. It's
Mm-hmm.
gas. It's like, do kids like I guess like we came up in a different aspect where it's like, do kids really know that you can just like spray lighter fluid
Oh,
or
yeah.
gas and just like start a
Oh.
fire? Because I wouldn't have at that age. Because my grandparents were like, Don't go anywhere near that.
Oh no. See, we grew up in very different parts of
I mean, that's
very
fair,
different
yeah.
walks of life. No, the environment that I grew up in before I went to go live with my father, well before Chris was born, because we're 12 years apart. Yeah, I could very strongly say that I knew that you could put gasoline inside of a super soaker, and you could wreak havoc if you wanted to, because gasoline was flammable. And why couldn't you put it in a super soaker and make a little flamethrower for no reason? Yeah, it was. It's. There's some parts There's some parts of my town that are the Wild West, to say the least. It, that part again. There's parts of this movie that don't like the characters, because I guess like I said, I know someone who represents each one of these characters, and I was like, cool, yeah, that's exactly how that person would act, you know,
Hmm.
and yeah, I'm kind of shocked that as they're walking around with this dead alien, no, everyone is just like nonplussed about the whole thing. You know,
Right?
like when they walk up to the girls outside of the block and they're like, "Oh, hey, we got this," and they're like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's an alien," and they're like, "Meh, okay, cool, whatever."
They're more like grossed out. They're like, ew, don't touch me with that.
Right, and but also like that's also kind of something that my 13-year-old would do. He'd be like, "Okay, yeah, that's gross. Don't mess with me with that." And I'm like, "But that's an alien, bruv. It's an alien."
It's an alien, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or like when they
uh,
took it into the big pot room and the dude just literally like put sunglasses on it. He's like, ha ha ha, look at this. Look at this little puppet you got over here.
right. No one is concerned.
Nope, not the least
I
bit.
mean, and even after a while, even the kids who killed this thing, they're just like, yeah, whatever, you know.
Insane.
I
Absolutely insane.
I I love also the camaraderie amongst the boys, like the scene when the cops end up getting killed by the aliens, and then they drive the police van through the garage and they end up hitting Hi Hat's car, and they have this really kind of heated exchange where Hi Hat pulls the gun on Moses. And he's like, "Oh, what are you doing? How could you trying to get me? What are you doing?" And they're trying to explain to this dude, like, "Hey, listen, there's aliens." And he pulls his gun back up again, and all the boys like pull out their bats or their
Yeah.
swords or whatever. And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like we know who's in charge here, and it's not Hi Hat.
Right? There was one kid
And
with like there's one kid with like a machete. You got a
mm-hmm.
baseball bat. You had oh, what's the little sword thing called? I'm blank.
A katana,
Yeah,
samurai. Yeah,
like a little samurai sword. And we were just like, where are you kids getting this stuff from? Like they were just pulling them out of nowhere.
right. And it was, oh god, it was such a cool scene. You know, oh, under different circumstances, I would have loved to have seen that power dynamic shift. But also, Hi Hat was hard as shit because he wasn't one of those people who, who was talking a big game and then 30 seconds later gets killed. That's kind of his sidekick.
Hmm.
He ends up getting stuck in an elevator with one of
Oh
them
my god.
aliens and comes out covered in blood, like still ready to fight.
Tells the dude standing outside of it, hey, you're gonna want to take the next one. And
Right.
dude outside of
Which,
it's just like,
yeah.
I did like Hi Hat's end scene though. Like
That was
where
good.
he's like, don't try and trick me. And then they all like all the little aliens behind him start making noise. And you just see him covered. You see his face go away, and then his nose is gone. That was
Right.
cool. I like that.
Probably one of the goriest
Dude, you saw someone's neck get ripped out. I
Yeah, but
I
that
like
was that
that.
still wasn't. Yeah, that was. I mean, it was pretty cool, but it wasn't the goriest like Hi Hat's death. Like, because you really got to see like straight up, like I don't know, kind of like just gore for gore's sake.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, most of it you really didn't get to see. Like some kid's head just got like
Oh, that's
shot
right.
off basically and a helmet and you just see the helmet go flying.
Yeah, that's right.
That
What did you think? What did you think of the simplicity of the monster design, where it was just fuzzy blackness with glowing teal teeth?
I thought it was kind like at first when I first saw it, I was like, did they take like one of those gorilla suits and just put like weird little teeth and someone's like hopping around in it? I thought it was a little derpy at first, but I do enjoy stupid stuff like that. I do like the monsters that you see that you're like, it's a little dumb looking, but I mean, if it was coming at me, sure, I'd get scared of it. Also, the fact that they were like, it's blacker than black, and some kid goes, it's blacker than my cousin, and he's the blackest kid I know.
That's right. Yeah.
It
Oh,
was good. I do
there.
like
There's so.
I
Go
do
ahead.
like the aspect of it. Like the fact that it's like there's no eyes, there's no nose. They literally are just this big fuzzy black entity with massive rows of like glowing bluish green teeth. It was a good time. I like that.
There were so many points in this movie where I got caught up watching the movie and just forgot to take notes
Fair.
because since I didn't do it so much with the Lost Boys and with Rocky Horror, but last week I'm trying to make a concerted effort whenever we watch a movie for the show that I try to take notes. There was like a good 45-minute chunk where I was just zoned out watching it, enjoying life, and it's if there's any like good testament to this movie is that like, just locked in.
Yeah.
Um, the the scene where the boys are in the apartment and they're trying to get old girl to wrap up the kid's leg,
Hmm.
and she's trying to get him out of her apartment. She's like, "Oh, get the fuck out of here, you fucking kids or whatever." And they turn around and look at her and go, "You need to be quiet." And then she says something else. It's like, "Oh man, come on, you got a potty mouth. Come
Right?
on, man." That is such a kid thing to say. And it was so funny to me because it didn't even dawn on me up until that point. Like the kids really haven't cussed at all in this movie.
And she's
Like
just
they
coming
did.
out like, get the fuck out of my house, holding a
Yeah,
guitar. She's like, I'll call the cops on you guys. And they're just like, dude, chill.
right.
There's aliens out here. Homie's leg is bleeding.
Yeah. And then a couple scenes later, they're because she's upset because she got robbed. In the timeline of the movie, she got robbed a couple hours ago, and then now, essentially because of these kids, is being chased by aliens. And a couple scenes after this, when they're in the weed room, John Boyega's character says something of like, hey, we're sorry we robbed you because we didn't know that you lived in our block. If we
Yeah.
would have known you were from the block, we wouldn't have robbed you. And she's like, what are you talking about? Like that doesn't make it better.
Right. And
And to
then,
them, like that's their code of ethics.
yeah, he was sitting there. I know exactly what you're talking about. And where he's sitting there, he's like, I wish I hadn't done this. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't have robbed you. And that's basically like him being like, I'm sorry. And she's like, dude, you would have robbed me if I didn't live in your neighborhood. And the little kid that's been hitting on her the whole time is like, hey, he's trying to say he's sorry right now. And she's just like,
Yeah.
what?
And she's just so incredulous, as she should be.
Fair,
But
yes.
but I do love when the I've always said I like if you establish a set of rules in your movie, you have to abide by those set of rules. And this movie does that, like that with them kids saying that, like that's not out of character for them kids.
Mm-hmm.
Or like John Boyega's character to be like, hey, you know, like we 100% would have robbed you, but now that we know that you're essentially our neighbor, we're kind of all in this together. Like, you know, kind of honor amongst thieves.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're part of our village, so therefore, you know, we don't mess with you.
Yeah.
And they've never did anything to like go against that throughout the movie. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that was like this real kind of real good sense of character development. A small one,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the kind of writing in movies that I like. But also I like the response from Jodie Whittaker where she's like, as the normal person, be like, "What are you talking about? You realize that's a dumb thing to say, right?" And again, brought right back into the movie where that one kid is just, hey, just trying to apologize.
So good.
So good.
Or even like when they go into her apartment after they basically just like break in to try and get away from the alien. And they're chit chatting, and one of them's like, "You have a nice apartment." She's like, "Thanks, I'm looking to move." And they're all like, "What's wrong with this neighborhood?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's just like, "You kids robbed me." What?
I want to talk about the unsung heroes of this movie, and that is the group of girls.
Oh, goodness.
They they're introduced and we don't see them again until that one scene where I guess we're in just the girls' apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm impressed because amongst all this craziness, they make absolutely no bones being thrown into this position where these aliens show up and they're now like fighting these aliens, and they are down to clown. Everybody in this movie is down to fight just at a drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing, like I mentioned before, like nothing really phases them. The fact that there's aliens in, East London, and they're just like, cool, like we're gonna fight them. Like I'm gonna smash this light bulb or smash this lamp, and I'm gonna try to,
Chris was like, "Oh my God, they're tasing it with a light bulb."
yeah.
It was so
And then
good.
one girl killed it with with an ice skate.
Yeah, we didn't realize that it was an ice skate. We like thought it was like a regular shoe, and we're like, what is she doing?" And then she's just holding it up, and we're like, "Oh." Girls over there just like, "I'm going for the kill." Like it's not just like, "Get it away from me." It is, it's on. We're going.
Yeah,
It was good. That was a really good scene, honestly. Cuz then they're all like, "Okay, it's gone. We're out. Goodbye."
yeah. And man, there's no fat in this movie either. Like I want to say the runtime of this movie is around an hour, is
It's an
around
hour
90
and a
minutes.
half.
Yeah, there's no fat in this movie. Every scene serves a purpose. There is the acting's phenomenal. The the part at the end where the crowd starts chanting Moses,
Mm-hmm.
and John Boyega is in the police van, and he gives that smile where he looks like Denzel Washington.
Mm.
That's a movie that young man's going to be in, whether he knows it or not. When Denzel Washington passes away, they're going to make the Denzel Washington biopic, and it's going to star John Boyega because that man looks just like Denzel.
I can see it, yeah.
But and this movie, very few movies get me hyped up, get me excited. Yes, I am ready to go conquer the world. 300 did it, and this movie did it. Like I got to watching this movie, and they're screaming Moses and like Moses, Moses. Like I was like, yes, like let's go do something productive. So I love it. I don't have anything else to say. I keep saying like, oh, I love this part. I love this part. I love everything about this movie.
It
I
is
can't think.
a good
I
movie. Like
I
the
cannot
entire thing.
think. I can't think of like anything I would change because it is so lean.
Mm-hmm.
Every character is doing something, or serves a purpose eventually. Even hi hats like second round of thugs that show up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're pretty much just kind of, they end up being bait for the lack of better words, but you know they're there for a reason, and it's just a wonderful movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, any final thoughts on Attack the Block?
Oh man, I think we covered it. I think with as like cheesy as the movie is, it's a strong movie. Everything about it is just on point. Even if you're like, that's the derpiest looking little alien. Aliens can be whatever they want. Like it doesn't matter at this point. You could literally make like a stick an alien, and somehow it's gonna be scary. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Like if you're like somehow this stick is running around and causing mayhem, it's gonna scare me. I don't know.
So, all right. Well, with that, let's uh let's talk about my favorite part of the show. Let's talk about what has made us happy for the week. Raven, what has made you happy this week?
That's a good question, man. I have been absolutely busy. Uh from working both of my jobs. And I was basically getting home close to like 12, 1 a.m. Uh, and so I'd be going to sleep at like 1 or 2 in the morning. And then I would have to wake up at like 5:30 to be at my other job at 7 and just start the entire routine again. But
Ooh,
on Wednesday and Thursday, I didn't have to work my second job. So I went home Wednesday. I was awake for an hour after I got off work, and I was able to sleep. The best sleep that I have ever had. That was the best part of my week. Was I
I,
slept for like I slept from 8 p.m. to like 5:30 in the morning. Nothing
that's
was waking me
awesome.
up, and I felt the most refreshed I have ever felt. What made you happy this week?
Oh, well, I got to we started our D&D campaign. I talked a little bit about it last week. We started it properly this week. It was super fun. I am playing with essentially some newbies, and it was fun watching them kind of learn how to play, and helping them along, and just kind of getting the ball rolling. It was super fun also because I've played D&D sessions where we play for hours and hours and hours and hours, to the point where I'm just like, it is time to go.
Mm,
But we kind of have a hard out with this group, and we played for a couple hours, and that was it. And it was we were done.
nice.
And I think that like 2.5 hours is probably like the best time you can play. We didn't really get quote unquote far in our campaign. You know, we didn't really get a lot of stuff done, but again, we're still learning, still super fun.
Hmm.
I left there, you know, not being just mentally exhausted, and just like, I got to get home. I'm tired of being around you guys because I've been around you guys for 6 hours. No, it was a couple hours. We had a good time. It was super fun, and I can't wait to do it again. That's
Nice.
one thing. The second thing is, instead of being like everyone else on the planet and watching spooky movies before Halloween, I decided to wait until after Halloween to watch spooky movies. And I finally watched a movie on Netflix that I've been wanting to watch for a while now, called Fear Street, 1994.
Yes.
And I watched Fear Street 1994 and 1978.
What'd you think?
And they are great. I loved them. And the
Yes.
only reason I haven't watched the third one in the trilogy is just because I haven't had time to yet. I will get to it probably tomorrow, but I can't watch it around my kids. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of bad. So, but no, it was fun so far. Like the 1994 version is my favorite so far.
Hmm.
But each one has their thing so far that I really enjoyed. But like 1994 was kind of the style of horror movies that I watched in the mid 90s.
Hmm.
So that was a super fun watch. It was really fun. There was a lot of scream elements and stuff in it. So really great time. Really enjoyed watching it. And yeah.
It's a
So
good
and
cast too.
yes, and I kind of felt guilty watching it too because the whole time I was watching I was like I should be watching Attack the Block right now. And instead I'm watching this, but that's okay. I have time. I have time because it was the middle of the week.
Hmm.
So,
No,
but
dude. I totally understand because when they like first came out, like I kept seeing them and I was like, eventually I'll get to it. And so Chris and I had some time off. We watched the first one. I was like, hey man, that was pretty good for a little Netflix movie. And then like I was like, okay, a few days have gone past. Can we watch the other one? And he's like, okay. So we watched the second one. And it was right before the third one had come out because I was ready to just go from the second to the third one. But I had to wait a few more days because it wasn't out yet. That's how good I thought these were. Is I tried to watch them all within just the span of. I would have done it in one sitting if I could have.
yeah, it it's really good. I wish it would have gotten a little bit more kind of exposure because it seems like they came out and were swallowed up by other stuff on Netflix.
Yeah.
But I think they're great. I think that the actors really great job. I haven't seen the third one yet, where they bring back some of the actors from the previous movies.
Hmm.
But the main girl from the first movie, her and her brother, like they were great actors. Sadie Sink in the second movie, she did great. It really is good. We might have to do that in or talk about all three of these movies
Okay.
in a future show.
I'd be down for that.
So, all right. Well, with that, let me tell everybody where you can find us. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Nerd for No Reason. Reach out to us. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Give us ideas. Just tell us whether or not you like the show, what we can or can't do better. Like we're here for it. I'm a big boy. Tell me what you think. Uh, like, comment, subscribe, all that other good social media stuff. Leave comments, reviews. Talk to us. Give us feedback. It's we're only as good as y'all's engagement with us. So, but if you want to talk to me personally, Mark, on Twitter, you can find me at Turtles Do It. At least while Twitter is still a thing, because I don't know how much longer that's going to be around.
Please don't
Um,
say that.
I don't
I
feel like I just started adopting Twitter, like within the past year, and I don't really want to have to adopt a new social media platform.
As someone who's been heavily ingested in Twitter since 2012, if
Ooh,
it goes away, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I guess I'll turn to Reddit, but honestly, there's just I like the format of Twitter more. I literally went on to Reddit to like find whatever was trending in the world for us to talk about earlier, and I was like, "Hey, you ever realize you don't know how to use Reddit as well as you think you do?"
it took me a while to figure out Reddit. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
But
So,
if you want to follow me on Twitter, mine is spooky underscore underscore raven. I like to just retweet the most cute and random stuff that I can find sometimes. That's really
for
all I
sure.
do.
All right, y'all. Well, you guys go out and do something awesome this week. Be the best you can be.
You guys keep on ingesting that media and do what you do. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.